Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. This is going to be the last video on Glenn's Firebird. For now. Glenn came by the other day to visit his car and to drop off these parts. These are the last new parts we're going to be putting onto this thing for a little while. And it's all new front and rear brakes. So it looks like a pretty comprehensive kit that he got here. It's made by Power Stop. He got the Extreme Street Performance brake pads. And I believe he said he got the slotted and vented rotors as well. So definitely a good upgrade over stock. He's already upgraded the brakes on the car, but it spends most of the winter sitting, and that has resulted in pitting in the brake rotors. If you don't know, pitting basically happens when water sits on the same spot and sits and evaporates and sits and evaporates and sits and evaporates, and it causes oxidation, rust, and that leaves pits in your brake rotors. And when you have a whole bunch of pits in your brake rotors, you don't have as much contact area, as much surface area meeting with your brake pad, and your braking performance is reduced. So knowing that this car is cock-locked and ready to rock as far as the rest of the drivetrain, I want to make sure that Glenn is safe in the springtime when he takes this thing out for a drive, and it stops as well as it goes. So we're going to get all these new brakes on there. I recommended it to him. Glenn took my word for it, which I really appreciate. We're going to get all of these new brake parts put on and make sure this thing is ready 100% when it's time to take it for a drive. Now these are cross-drilled and slotted rotors. Typically, if you have slots or cross drilling, the rotor is going to be directional, meaning that it needs to be mounted in a certain position on the car. You can see right here, these are the slots, and you can see these are the cross drill holes. They go all the way through, and basically what those do is allow gas to escape from between the brake pad and the brake rotor. Your brakes slow you down by creating friction, which creates heat, which disperses your kinetic energy. But when it does that, the brake pad itself, it doesn't melt per se, but it rubs, it gets really, really hot, so does the rotor, and gas pockets can form between the rotor and the pad. And by having these slots and having these cross-drilled holes, it makes it nearly impossible for any of that gas to remain between the pad and the rotor, and that improves your brake performance. It also helps with cooling, but the primary function of these is to get that gas out of the way, out from between your pad and your rotor. And these are really nice. They're good quality rotors. You can see here, the rear rotors are the same. They have slots and cross drilling. They serve the same purpose. It looks like a really nice kit. Let's get this put onto the car. Now, I know some of you that have been subscribers for a while and following along are probably thinking, Jason, you've done numerous videos on disc brakes. You're right, I have. So I'm not going to bore you with the explanation of how a single piston brake caliper works and how you get the rotors off and the pads and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to try to find some good music for you to listen to while I do it, and then we'll get to the more exciting part right after. got Glenn's Firebird out of the garage. I double checked all the fluids one more time before I brought it out. I'm letting it warm up a little bit before we get out on the road. Everything looks good. Except for this. It's been in my garage. How did this happen? Don't worry, Glenn, I'll clean it. But I'm excited. I think it's gonna drive really well. And yeah, I'll check back in with you. I'll check back in with you once we get it out on the road. Okay, everybody, here we go. Got some temperature in the car. Let's go see how this thing drives. I expect it should drive really well. I want to do a little bit of country road driving. I want to do a little bit of highway driving. I want to make sure this thing is gonna function and behave the way it should in all driving situations. There's third gear. There's fourth gear. And there's the torque converter clutch. Okay. We've got all ranges operational. All 4 gears and lock up in the torque converter. So good start already. Not that I had any doubts, but it's always nice to just get that reassurance. Now this is my first time driving this car, so I'm going to drive it and, you know, hopefully everything feels right to me. But if it doesn't, then we'll have to address that, right? Final word, of course, will be Glenn. He's driven the car before. I mean, since it was new, really, so he'll know what is right and if there's anything that's off. I do want to get a couple miles on the transmission. You know, probably 5-10 miles on the transmission, just under casual, normal driving conditions. And then I'll give it a couple good heavy throttle pulls just to make sure everything's staying engaged, that there's no slipping or anything like that under heavy throttle also. Now I did leave the car stock. I did not put Glenn's programmer back on. I'm not exactly sure if Glenn told the guys that built the transmission that he had the programmer for it and if he was going to use that or not. So I figured best to just see what the transmission does with what they've done on internal modifications. So, you know, right now it's operating at the factory settings for line pressure, shift points, torque converter lockup, all of those things. And then if Glenn decides he wants to firm up the shifts a little bit, or he wants to change the shift points or change when the torque converter clutch locks, he can do that stuff with the programmer. Get to the bottom of this ramp and then we'll get off on the shoulder. Go from a standing start and see how it gets up to flow of traffic. Traffic speed, highway speed. Alright, that's a good spot. There's a good gap for us. All right, let's go. Wow-wee! Very crisp shift first to second. Very crisp shift second to third. And then easy into, I was off the throttle by that point, easy into fourth, take this thing down to the cruise nights now. I think you've got your car back, buddy. Done right. Everything the way it should be. I think you're going to be really happy with it.
It definitely feels stiffer. You know, suspension-wise, it definitely feels upgraded.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell at low speeds.
Yeah.
I like this. That's as fast as I've driven this car in a long time.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. It felt way more stable at high speed.
Good.
Way more.
Good.
I'd be kind of like...
Yeah, starting to get that light in the rear feeling.
Things are kind of starting to jiggle around. Oh, it feels much better.
Yeah.
That was cool. Going up that hill like that. Now I got the itch for more horsepower now.
Woohoo! And it does squish you back into the seat too.
Oh, it feels so good. Jason, you did an outstanding job. This thing felt
Thanks, man.
really good. This thing is awesome.
Good.
I can't wait to take the T-tops out and drive around in the summertime.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I've been looking forward to this all week because I wanted to see your reaction.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic.
Because I've had stuff that, man, I haven't been able to drive it for a while, and then you finally get it back. It's like, oh, I forgot how much I